Good evening, listeners, and welcome to The Dreaming Prophet. You've arrived just in time. There's been a murder on the scene. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to discover the identity of the culprit and prove their guilt. You will find witnesses to question in the next room.
Can xaviul be the victim instead of me?
Wow, I think we all know who's the best professional victim around here.
My name is Lavanya.
I'm Astro.
And I'm Xaviul.
This is a Blackout Club show for Blackout Club players with minimal speculation, all lore, and a focus on the known facts. Our topic of the day is ARG and roleplay tips.
Our spoiling content warnings for today are absolutely jack and shit. Boy howdy. Be excited. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
So, what is the Blackout Club? From Steam, we have this description.
Quote, "The Blackout Club is a first-person co-op horror game centered around a group of teenage friends investigating a monstrous secret beneath the skin of their small town." End quote.
The Blackout Club is a genre-blending game. It mixes aspects of survival horror, psychological horror, and action all together into one exciting, fucked-up melting pot.
In a way, it can be seen as a role-playing game, especially with the enhanced horror encounters. But enhanced horror as a factor can change the genre entirely. Given the focus on solving mysteries, enhanced horror means that the Blackout Club could be seen as an alternative reality game, or ARG. Alternate reality games are, quote, an interactive networked narrative that uses the real world as a platform and employs transmedia storytelling to deliver a story that may be altered by players' ideas or actions, end quote.
That doesn't really apply to the Blackout Club. Enhanced horror does not extend outside of the game, and we here at the Dreaming Prophet feel fairly secure in saying it's unlikely to do so. Developers have compared it to a live theater environment, which, unlike ARGs that focus on creating ambiguity on the reality of the situation, at least initially, involves the player's full awareness that this is ultimately just a performance.
However, that isn't the only facet of defining an ARG. ARGs are also,
quote, defined by intense player involvement with a story that takes place in real time and evolves according to players' responses. Subsequently, it is shaped by characters that are actively controlled by the game's designers, as opposed to being controlled by an algorithm as in a computer or console video game. Players interact directly with the characters in the game, solve plot-based challenges and puzzles, and collaborate as a community to analyze the story and coordinate real-life and online activities, end quote.
By this definition, the Blackout Club definitely fits in.
So on today's episode of The Dreaming Prophet, we have an interview with a veteran ARG player, and we're going to be interspersing this episode with clips of our discussion with her.
So, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Alexis. You can know me by Lexicat. I'm Lexicat on Twitter, and I believe I am Lexicat34 on Twitch. I am from Canada. I'm 26, and you can find me those places or on the Blackout Club Discord.
How long have you been involved in ARGs?
There's a couple of different kinds of ARGs that have run. A lot of the stuff nowadays is very video game based. It's promoting something, which is less of a bad thing and more of this is how they get money to run these super cool things. So with a focus on these super high-end, high-scale ones, I would say about maybe 2 years, and with more of a focus on community run ones or puzzle questy ones or things like that, I would say about 10.
So how do you play ARGs? ARGs, in the way that we defined them before, thrive off of players interacting with the narrative and propelling it forward. A great deal of the community focus is on enhanced horror interactions, which makes a lot of sense because this is the method through which we can further the plot. But by identifying a plot thread that you are personally interested in and pursuing that with the community, it enables a second layer of enjoyment to enhanced horror.
If you know what part of the plot that you yourself are interested in, or a mystery you wish to solve, then each transcript from the community can now serve as a part of that puzzle, and each interaction is an opportunity to gain more information, or to discover new ones.
Keep in mind that the game has focused heavily on mysteries in the major plot arcs in the past. The search for the hunter's name and the missing witness story both required players to put together the dots and dig into the story and examine the environment and the witnesses to figure out what happened.
Do you feel like your time working with ARGs helps you with the story and mysteries of the Blackout Club?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anything that forces you to kind of learn how to do cryptography, to learn how to spot patterns in art and clues and things like that, to sort of like think with critical judgment is going to help you try and solve any kind of thing for like any kind of video game. I find myself doing escape rooms all the time because when I was younger, I enjoyed ARGs so much, because the challenge of spotting things connected together and puzzling through something is something I very much enjoy.
Identifying plot threads you like in an ARG is a key part of participating in them. The Blackout Club has a number of different narrative strands that have been scattered throughout the game.
Some of these are pretty clearly more obvious than others and have already been solved. Like, what's the origin of Spica's one? What's the dynamic between In Her Teeth and Laugh Last? How did Redacre begin? These are all still worth following up on if you're interested, but there's also dozens of other threads that are ripe to be solved.
Some examples of these are, where are In Her Teeth's other worshippers?
How many demons exist outside of Redacre? How many variants of our demons exist outside of Redacre?
Where is the baby? The idea is an absentee godfather?
Where did Unknown Caller come from? And can we call their parents? Because I really think they need their parents, or an adult in the room that is not the hunter.
Why is the moon hidden, and what relation does it have to the moon delusion?
What happened to Chase the Sun? Can a demon ever truly die? Because the ones we have are still kind of whispering beyond the grave.
What trick exactly did Laugh Last play on In Her Teeth, which kind of led up to their whole breakup?
How did Kiara become a lucid? How does the process of gaining lucidity work?
Some of these are explicitly linked to certain daemons, which makes it easier to ask questions. For instance, the Idare wants to know about the Unknown Caller, but it's Dance for Us and now the Hunter who have vested interest in them as a host.
In Her Teeth is the only daemon personally invested in how they'll die, depending on how seriously you take the Idare's entire thing. And she's the only one invested in how she can ensure it.
Seed the Grudge wants to know about and avenge Chase the Sun. The Eighth and the Idea are the ones who killed her, so how exactly is Seed the Grudge going to enact revenge on both of them?
Speak as one keeps in limited contact with their other selves outside of Redacre, and was the one to confirm who Chase the Sun is, her domain, and give her the title of Olympian.
So what else do they know? These aren't all of the loose threads out there by far, because that'll probably take an entire episode just to describe all of them. But this is a quick sampling of some of the more obvious ones. There are a lot of questions in the Blackout Club waiting to be answered. These are either in transcripts or in dreams that exist or in dreams that are soon to come. Remember, the Hunter existed in dreams from the very start of the game, but players only noticed after he made his debut, nearly an entire year in. What else have the developers hidden for us to notice? What else sparks your curiosity?
You mentioned pattern recognition as something that helps you with your ARGs and presumably with TBC too. Can you describe your process when you come across a clue, how you begin to unpack it?
Absolutely. So, just like with humans, I'm a psychologist, so this is something I've been looking into for people a long time. People tend to work on patterns and habits and stuff like that. So just like with people, one, these games are made by people, but two, codes and stuff and puzzles tend to have obvious patterns they'll follow. Things that have been done in the past, people try and stray a little bit from, but there's only so many kinds of puzzles you can do. So when you notice a clue like, oh hey, they're giving us cryptograms, and oh hey, they're giving us a bunch of dance poses, and oh hey, the big payoff was those dance poses killed a god. It's like, that all clicks together in my mind as okay, yeah, I see where this is pointing, and it's pointing at these are spelling something out. And so I dove deep into that.
Of course, identifying plot hooks and threads requires some literary analysis. How do you figure out what's supposed to be a plot hook and what's just a wild gazebo? Every detail that the enhanced horror team presents isn't necessarily expected to be followed up on, but there are some easy ways to figure out what they want you to notice.
I remember the first night I had a Discord conversation about that, I was like, what about this, and things I was noticing? People were like, oh, I think you're right. And it turned out I was right. And that's kind of what comes back to patterning, right? Like, you notice a small detail, and then you extrapolate, and you just kind of like, be like, okay, is this proven to be false? If not, can I prove it to be false? If not, can I prove it to be true? And if you can do none of those, then you have a solid theory that you should be consistently trying to prove either true or false, null or not, right? Like null hypothesis style thing.
Clue 1. What are a character's themes, and are they matching it? All daemons are based off of concepts and set ideas. They cannot change far from these without becoming a new voice entirely. With that in mind, when they do break character, it's generally worth noting.
The Redacre started off telling the player characters to survive, after he began sharing more details of his deceased hosts, saying that the voices may be inherently harmful, and building more personal bonds to players. He changed tracks. He started telling them to survive for him. When looking at changes in characters, analyze why. Why did the Redacre change tracks? How does this benefit him? What does it cost him, and what spurred this development?
Unknown Caller was deathly afraid of being possessed and consistently mentioned it throughout their conversations, along with their fear and loathing towards the daemons as a whole. When they disappeared, they made reference in their Dead Man switch to the fact they were either dead or something worse. This is called foreshadowing. When they reappeared to a PC on 12/2/2019, the groundwork for this had already been laid down by the developers, and when it was revealed on 12/28/2019 that they were possessed by the Hunter, this had also been laid down.
If a character is saying something over and over, examine why. If they are breaking from their usual patterns, examine why. A huge part of predicting and analyzing material is noticing the changes from the norms and figuring out what that means.
And when you come across like something that you think might be encoded, like for example, some people have been like looking at the recording of the Chancellors with TMC's new mission, right?
Right.
Something like that, I've taken a listen to it, and it's very hard to tell whether something like that is just them kind of giving you like, yes, here's the vocalization and musical intonations that fit with an old language thing, and now this is TMC trying to sort of, cancel out some kind of instructional thing the song has done, or whether there's some other deeper message that TMC is implanting in them. And that's a healthy bit of speculation, and anyone who like recorded that and looked at that and says, is there language there, is there something there, should be absolutely commended, because that's exactly the kind of pattern matching and thinking you want to say.
Clue 2. What is the theme of the game, and does this fit? The narrators and cast of the game all believe that they are in the right, but this is ultimately a horror game. If something seems too good to be true, then look at why and what the characters have to gain by selling it to you. The Blackout Club is unique in that the characters are trying to convince you, the player, of various things, and the nature of the game means that these things may not, and often aren't, actually true.
A good example of this is Die For You. While he speaks of passion, his sacrifice quote involves a child literally being shot by poachers. Speak as One is another. While the voice speaks of how much they love all the children in one breath, they mention using the shape to punish, and also kill, one in the next.
The Hunter has a lot of contrasts with the overall themes of the game. It has been emphasized continually that the Blackout Club is a game about friendship. There are huge advantages to playing with friends and working together. The Hunter, though, continually tries to separate players from their friends and single people out. Other daemons have actually commented on this and advised that anyone wanting to tangle with the Hunter should go with friends, not alone. Once you notice conflicts like that, you can begin to question why they're there and what the writers are trying to tell you through this.
Clue 3. What is the character saying, and what are they not saying? The Blackout Club is filled with unreliable narrators, a term that we're using here to say, hey, despite being eldritch hallucinations, the voices don't know everything, and the mortals especially don't. They have a limited set of information, and they may not be willing or capable of sharing all that with the PCs, even when they want to.
The Watchers are concerned about the voice. The voice isn't sharing information with any but the oldest of the Watchers, and they're actively withholding information from the song, despite the fact that the song is true and things are supposed to be shared with it.
So let's unpack that. Why is the voice supporting unity while creating separation? Why do their actions contradict their words?
The voice is not a character that we can speak directly to, but players can compile all of their actions, turn them over, compile theories, and ask the available characters questions in order to figure out their motives.
It's also important to pay attention to how the voices communicate a message. This is where transcripts become very useful, especially written ones. Very slight changes in word usage can signify a great deal.
For example, the hunter, prior to his full reveal, was described by Speak as One as, quote, thinking itself a gourmet, end quote. This could be interpreted two ways. The hunter might think of himself as special, like gourmet food, or like an expert critic, like the person a gourmet. The context also implies a few things about how Speak as One views the hunter. They think he's full of shit.
It thinks itself uses both it pronouns to belittle and to dehumanize, and thinks itself, as in, this is what the hunter believes about himself, without stating it as a fact. This means that Speak as One does not believe it. Speak as One is not saying that they think the hunter is a gourmet. They're dehumanizing and belittling the hunter, even as they state they think he has an overinflated sense of self.
Can you dehumanize an eldritch hallucination?
I don't know, but they sure are trying.
Speak as One always tries their hardest, even when we wonder what the fuck they're doing.
They raise the carrot to some and the stick to the rest. The Blackout Club and the transcripts are full of little things like that. If you want to analyze the lore, break out your magnifying glasses and keep an eye out, because the team likes to hide a story in every sentence.
Is this possible? Yeah, absolutely. And so you should be looking into that. And even if you find nothing, even if you're way off base and you find nothing, you've added to the story in two ways. Firstly, you've provided a theory that maybe end up being disproven, but also drives more people into looking into it. And if someone disproves your theory, don't be sad. That means they did enough research into it to disprove it and get further along. And two, you've also just provided a lot of, intrigue. What if TMC is trying to brainwash parents and claim some subsection of SAO's people for himself? What if TMC is just trying to, cancel out the song and see what happens? What if he's just being a scientist, right? There's plenty of different ways you can go about it. And so that kind of intrigue and lore towards that only drives people towards asking those questions to TMC. And when those questions get asked, the gods come and answer, and you get more information. So, and that's kind of just the way that, collaborative ARG stuff works, right? When you try and solve something on your own, you only have your own biases to sort of look at. When you try and solve something with a group, you can present a theory, and then people can say, well, I don't know about that. And as long as people are, trying to kind of, in good faith, figure it out and disprove in the sense of I want to see where this goes, as opposed to just shut you down, then you're only going to get good places. And that's exactly the kind of pattern matching thing you want to have. You want people to find problems and propose solutions, and if the solutions don't match the problem, then you discard them. It's kind of how you pattern match and how you think, right? It's you take a small clue, you extrapolate, you find something that fits, and you go, okay, how does this work? And in the end, maybe you're right, maybe you're not, but you work together and you find that kind of solution.
Right, one thing leads to another.
Exactly.
We're going to spend the second half of this episode talking about the reverse side of the ARG, roleplay. Some players enjoy role-playing in encounters, and this is reflected in their transcripts. Their kid interacting with daemons isn't them, it is a different, specific person from Redacre. The Blackout Club introduces players to roleplay, or RP, by design, in the style of tabletop roleplay games.
The premise of the game immediately gives your character a background. You're from Redacre, your parents are part of a cult, you and your friends are threatened by the cult, and you want it to stop.
Remember, your most important tool in role-playing is motivation, and this tool will get you everywhere.
For those who want to roleplay during encounters but aren't sure how to start, ask, what does your character want? So, for example, my kid, Hadar, wants to bring Chase the Sun back. They think she's the spirit of victory the club needs to win the fight, so I, playing as them, go after every scrap of information I can about the moon, about dead gods, symbols, names, and so on, especially when they relate to her.
My kid, Lavi, or Lavanya, wants to gain the approval of Speak as One, who they're projecting on as a weird, fucked up metaphor for everyone in their life. They want to have someone pat them on the head, say that they're doing good, and give them accolades for doing good. They want their friends to love them. They want Speak as One to love them. They don't need to be the most special chicken in the chicken coop, but they do need to be the most coddled one and the one with the ribbon around its neck.
Pretty sure that's a choking hazard for an animal.
It's Speak as One. Everything is always a gift and also a collar.
And my kid, xaviul, mostly just wants to survive to see, past 18. Preferably not stuck in a cult town where everybody's being flesh puppeted by whichever daemon has selected them. Admittedly, he's gone about it in the completely wrong way by getting himself shackled to one of the gods himself, but you work with what you're given. At least it's not the 8th. You can have short-term motivations, like getting a specific piece of information, and long-term motivations, like wanting to burn Redacre down to the ground.
When you're in an encounter, use this. Speak as your character, angle for your character's goals, and that's roleplay, baby.
Higher level tools include how the character feels about a situation. This comes naturally to some people, but to others it really doesn't, and that's okay. You can RP in the Blackout Club without ever delving too deep into this if you prefer. Do what's fun for you.
And remember, role-playing can be as easy as you want it to be, because always keep in mind, external sources that act on your character will make them react. If you push a fucking egg over, it will crack. A popular quote in performance arts is that acting is reacting.
Think about your character's experience. If someone close to them was hurt, what would they do? If their parents started speaking in sync, would they be scared? I know I would be.
You can play the fearless archetype, if you want to. But if you want more depth, giving your character at least one fear helps you play them, because fear is also a motivation, especially in a horror game.
An easy method of role-playing, because I'm always here to do the easiest method possible, is mirroring the emotions that your partner is writing. In enhanced horror encounters, your partner is the EH team. One example of this is that whenever Lavi's watcher gets upset, they will promptly fucking derail from whatever fucking agenda they were pursuing to get flustered and get protective instead. While it's straightforward as a form of role-playing, it serves to immediately highlight a large part of their character and their motivation with absolutely minimal effort on my part.
Some people like crafting their characters' backstories. This is semi-common, and in that case, some quick tips are:
Role-playing is a communal activity, and in-game, you're going to be role-playing with the enhanced horror team and interactions. Leave your child's backstory at least somewhat vague, so that they can improvise with you. Maybe your character's father's a sleeper, but leaving their mother's identity more oblique is a good way of letting others throw an interesting hook in.
You can build hooks with other players. If you often play the game with a set group, figure out ways that your characters could be linked together. Are they childhood friends? Are they enemies? The enhanced horror team will reference players that work together often, so this can add a fun layer of depth to your play.
For example, xaviul and Lavi are frenemies, planning on mutually backstabbing each other over their respective gods whenever the other one isn't paying attention. In fact, Speak as One has actively referenced this in interactions with Lavanya alone about how they can be used when xaviul isn't there to defend themselves. Young frenemyship.
Keep in mind your character's age. All player characters are canonly 14, about to turn 15. So what does that mean for your character? How is living in the boxcar affecting them? Are they used to this sort of environment, or is it upsetting? Teenagers are volatile. Do they think of the adult cast as authority figures, as parents, or as peers they can potentially boss around? And do they use deodorant? Important questions.
Ultimately, the Blackout Club is a video game. The priority is having fun. There is no right way to roleplay as long as you aren't hurting anyone. And similarly, there's no wrong way to roleplay as long as you aren't hurting anyone.
And you can always craft your character as you see fit, and roleplay as much or as little as you want to. The power is all yours.
Now remember, the golden rule of roleplay is that in character does not equal out of character. The game that we're playing, remarkably, as a huge shock to our dear listeners, is not actually real life. The characters are not the same as their players. And of course, as we should always remember, whether it's with TBC or other campaigns, the golden rule of roleplay is that in character does not equal out of character. The game that we're playing, and I know this will come as a deathly startling shock to our dear listeners, is not actually real life. The characters of the game, whether that's the EH team, whether that's the developer team, whether that's us, your loving co-players, are not actually the same as their players.
Don't threaten players of Speak as One characters, and don't threaten players of Hunt the Strong characters either. Those characters may be motivated to follow those gods for any reason, and maybe the players just find it fun. That isn't an opening to attack them.
Just because a character might be doing something immoral doesn't mean that the actual player thinks this is moral, normal human behavior.
Just like in real life, you should always just strive to be respectful of other people. It's not that hard.
And remember that places like the Discord are out of character spaces.
People in the Discord are there to talk to you, the player, not there to talk to you, your character.
Question Games has released new DLC packs for the game. Choose a god and put on their shirt, jacket, or decorate your boxcar with their accoutrement. Each one costs $4.99, and that money goes to support the team. We now have a website with links to all of our guides and resources on it. Are you looking for information on enhanced horror, a basic lore guide, information on older transcripts? It's all right there. Lavanya has also made a beautiful newbie guide to the Blackout Club, which you can also find on our website. Cal, Archer's Volley and Skigulium has made a lore master doc. This is updated every Monday or so with all of the latest lore. The Dreaming Prophet is now helping to update it, so enjoy jokes and information. There's also now an official archive on the Discord. This archives both God Talks and personal dreams. If you have transcripts or videos, please add them to the archive. There is also an option to allow your encounter to be used to support the wiki, which is heavily encouraged. Join the Discord to get involved at discord.gg/theblackoutclub. The Blackout Club is made by Question Games. Our transcript and video is by Lavanya. Audio editing is by me, Astro. Our publicity is done by Spoderman. Our guest today was Lexicat. It is the dawn of the final day, and 24 hours remain until xaviul crashes into the Earth.